More than 2,000 SPLA-IO forces joined SSPDF in Torit, promising full loyalty to the government. Juba City Council calls on vendors along Konyo and Customs Road to relocate to designated areas for their businesses. Good evening and welcome to SSBC News, coming to you live from Juba. I'm Jacqueline Perino. Over 73 students have graduated with diplomas and degrees at Africa Zeal University, marking a significant milestone in the country's education sector. SSBC's Henry Jada reports.
The remarkable celebration marks the beginning of a new chapter for the graduates of Africa Zeal University as they prepare to contribute to nation building. Speaking during the event, the Vice President and Chairperson for the Economic Cluster and Chancellor of Africa Zeal University, Dr. James Wani-Iga, said the government remains committed to support the student contributions to peace and development. Dr. Iga called on students to become job creators rather than job seekers.
This is a moment of national joy, feasting and excitement as we celebrate the achievements of our young people. Both South Sudanese and students from different African countries, by the way.
The Undersecretary in the Ministry of Higher Education, Science and Technology, Dr. Adil Atanasio, underscored the importance of education in liberating the country from conflict and poverty. He emphasized the ministry's commitment to strengthening higher learning institutions to ensure the provision of quality education nationwide.
Keep touch with the university. الأساس هنا يحتاجوا للريسيرش. الريسيرش يحتاجوا لسمرات collection. Some analysts, some wrote about this. You can help till when you get a position. You have a lot of these things. The intention, and through this tension, you can get a position later on.
Meanwhile, the Vice Chancellor of African Zeal University, Dr. John Loro, reaffirmed his commitment to working closely with all universities in South Sudan to foster meaningful change and progress, as well as to realize the vision of African Zeal University as a center of excellence and beacon of peace in the country.
Contribution. You are here, you are gracing this momentous occasion with your presence. It is a great honor to all of us. Therefore, I don't want to take much of our time. Only I wanted to appreciate our dignitaries who have really given us their much time to come and share with us this momentous occasion.
Dr. Iga said the African Zeal University will continue providing quality education to the people of South Sudan. For SSBC News,
the government says it is committed to developing the country's mining sector to attract international investors. The assurance comes during a briefing by Mining Minister Martin Gama Abucha to the Vice President and Chairperson of the Economic Cluster, Dr. James Wani-Iga, on the mining activities in the country. Impressed by the briefing, Dr. Iga directs Minister Gama to open up doors to the national and international companies to invest in the country's mining sector. In a statement to the media following this meeting, the minister confirmed that the South African-based company is in Juba to explore the areas of investment, specifically in the mining sector.
We discussed particularly with one company who also paid a courtesy visit to him, a South African-based company that is about to start some serious work in the Republic of South Sudan. A very committed company. We have already signed a number of agreements with them, so we are looking forward to discussing with them further and actually starting the implementation. I was also able to present to His Excellency a cement project, cement and rebar project in Keji, which we plan also to resume soon. We have also very compatible companies that are ready to start working with. So these are the major issues we discussed today, but also we discussed the challenges.
Government and the United Nations have renewed implementation progress of the revitalized peace agreement. Presidential Advisor on National Security Affairs, Tut Galwak, and the UN Resident and Humanitarian Coordinator, Anita Kiki, convened to discuss achievements and challenges in the 2018 Peace Accord. During the meeting, which also focused on areas of collaboration from humanitarian to security, Anita says she briefed Tut on the UN's plan of closing down some field offices, a move she attributed to global aid cuts.
I've just finalized a courtesy call with the presidential advisor. It was an opportunity to discuss some of the issues of common concern. I took the opportunity to brief him about the contingency plan, the reduction of funding that the United Nations is facing globally, including here in South Sudan, and some of the measures that we're going to have to take, and to seek his support moving forward. It was also an opportunity to talk about the peace agenda, an area that, of course, as a mission, we're very concerned about.
More than 2,000 SPLA-IO forces have joined the South Sudan People's Defense Forces SSPDF in Torit and pledged full allegiance to the government. The group was formally received at the SSPDF Division 7 headquarters in Torit by the division commander. In his welcoming remarks, General Moses commended the officers for what he described as a courageous and timely decision taken at a moment when the protection of lives and property in Eastern Equatorial State and across South Sudan remains paramount. He urged the new members to reject tribalism and distance themselves from hate speech, a tool he said have been misused by certain elements within the rebel forces. He encouraged them to serve in good faith and mobilize others still in the bush to join the government in the pursuit of lasting peace. While reading out the group's declaration of allegiance, Major General Dr. Kobos Milton expressed gratitude for the warm reception extended to them by the SSPDF and the state government, saying the tragic events of November 18th in Torit deeply affected everyone, and disagreements with General Patrick Oiti prompted them to make this difficult but necessary decision to abandon conflict and support community peace mobilization. Major General Kobos stated that their move followed a thorough evaluation of what he described as misleading narratives within the SPLA-IO regarding reform.
Jai betaku zede bodi lena shaka inu you have already declared novos kongali nina wasalna wa inukum yaudaitu jain alna derin minkum ikibel liwa kelem bakinas betaku na lisa bejuakela anina derin communication minkum to ruon kalumon ja asan nestaka sawa ande rasalu de kelito tari kutu be mok bito wala be geliba bito itu derin toriti karabo wala ina derin torit kalem sigidam kutu be gelba bitaki inu ya ta karabu ya torit kali kon em sigidam be development bito
manira haftani ino gabali yomen kan fi du fatan ta mugaddam ana ma bar wen mugaddam jama du fo to baden lo nentabel salam kalam نعمل برنامج نعمل شنو لانه كنا فاكشن عايزينه في زول بيجي مع جروب بتوع فالمرة بكم بقينا واحد لانه التوريد بتاعنا جنوب السودان ده بتاعنا ومشاكل بتاعنا عايزينه زول قاعد عايزين زول كسلام ما داير مشكله.
We, the SPLA-IO for Peace, will remain for peace by making a bold decision to declare our stand, to join hands with government, to embrace peace rather than war. We have wholeheartedly decided to make this declaration to join the government to give peace a chance. Reasons why we have remained in towns or villages instead of cantonments or hideouts. This move came after critical study of the propaganda by my institution, SPLIO, that we are fighting for reforms. And I ask, which reforms, if I may ask? This to me and my team see this like chasing a mirage. Instead of correcting nepotism, as it was always sung in our meetings.
Now 100 wildlife rangers forces have graduated after attending 1-month training facilitated by African Park on military skills, ethical conduct of wildlife conservation and human rights law. SSBC's John Tabanwani has more in the following report.
Minister of Wildlife Conservation and Tourism denied Jokshogor oversee graduation of more than 100 wildlife rangers forces in Bor Jungule Estate. In his keynote at the graduation, Minister denied Jokshogor calls upon the Jungule State government and graduates to enforce law in the area as the best tool to cementing peace in the state.
We need to enforce the law. And enforcement of the law cannot start elsewhere. It must start home. I understand really well the level of hunters that we have in Jungule State, even poacher also, in some cases. And that has to stop. This is why we are bringing more forces. We are doing this one, and we will bring more to make sure that our shops, our markets are free from bushmeat.
The governor of Jungule State, Dr. Yagai Kok, said his government will work collectively with the Ministry of Wildlife Conservation and Tourism and African Parks to provide conducive environment for wildlife forces.
So we are going to be with you in making sure that the wildlife team works in a conducive environment, because we know the benefits to our local communities, whether in Jungule and then also to our national economy.
African Parks country representative said African Parks is committed to support wildlife conservation in Bor as well as across South Sudan.
Today's graduation is a living reflection of your commitment. And African Parks stand ready to continue supporting your vision for wildlife protection and sustainable development in Jungule and beyond.
Representative of trainees Akol Majak asked the Ministry of Wildlife Conservation and Tourism to provide mobility and weapons to wildlife forces.
In other counties, Western Saba counties, Mafia Rabat and few. They are your way, Lena, and another Jakalimbela, you are not.
Jungule State is considered one of the states rich with wildlife potentials. In this regard, the Ministry of Wildlife Conservation and Tourism is working hard to improve wildlife sector in the country. John Tabanwani, SSBC, Bor, Jungule State.
The Undersecretary in the Ministry of Information, Communication, Technology and Postal Services, Mawian Bulabokchol, has expressed South Sudan's utmost will to engage South Africa to help in addressing issues of media coverages, especially skill transfer, to provide proper coverage for the December 2026 general elections. Bolabak stated on Friday in Pretoria at the conclusion of a 5-day study tour to South African media institutions and regulatory bodies. From Pretoria, SSBC's Francis Oliver reports.
After 5 days of a study tour to South African Broadcasting Corporation, Press Council, Editors Forum and other media regulatory bodies, The Undersecretary of the Ministry of Information, Communication, Technology and Postal Services, Marwayne Bulabak-Chol, says they are going to work with South Africa to address issues of skill to improve human resource capacity as election approach.
The issue of building capacity is one of the issues. We are going to address it with collaboration with the South Africa Broadcasting together to be able to train the skillful human resources in the field of the public broadcasting. I'm going to engage the leadership of the ministry, whether in telecommunication sector and postal services and information sector, plus our parastatals, to make sure the media take its lead role in the Republic of South Sudan as we are advancing to general election.
The Undersecretary further says during a 5-day study tour, they are convinced that there is something South African can offer to improve media as well, have proper coverage of the election.
We learned through the tour there is important archive. It is our responsibility as a government to have all our archive that can keep our heritage and our culture as the South Sudanese people.
Chairperson of Board of Directors for the Association of Media Development in South Sudan, Josephine Achiro, says with this tour, it is now high time that government and media relation is strengthened to avoid future issues in reporting elections, especially on matters of unverified information.
The key takeaway I take from here is that we have to build our relationship, strengthen our relationship as media in South Sudan and the government so that we work together for the common good of our people, because what we need is information that will save life. We need to be that journalist that report on ethical, balanced and fair content that will help South Sudanese take their informed decision. Whoever they're going to vote for is not our role as journalists, but we should just tell them the reality.
She also stressed the need to use the emerging technologies and local languages to ensure proper development of media industry in South Sudan. Francis Oliver, SSBC.
The National Ministry of Lands, Housing and Urban Development and its national and international stakeholders drew South Sudanese parliamentarians for building consensus on national land policy for economic development, peace and prosperity, and advancing regional program. The program is being supported by Regional Bloc, the Intergovernmental Authority on Development, IGAD, and Swedish Government Development Goal. Abate Simon has the details.
This program of the National Land Policy for Economic Development, Peace and Prosperity aims at addressing conflicts, ensure access to land, and promotion of sustainable land use to foster stability and economic growth. The representative of the Speaker of the National Transitional Legislative Assembly, Dr. Gada James Pillar, the chairperson for the Committee on Agriculture and Food Security, appeals for effective institutional arrangements as a crucial approach for transforming land policies into practice.
Digitalization, so that we safeguard our land registration and all document concern. We need also to see the budget allocated in a way that will make this decision active.
The representative of IGAD, Jesselyn Bigriwa, affirms the program as a tool to connect land policy to broader economic development goals like equitable access to land, job creation, and infrastructural development.
So we have a digitalized land information system. So with the digitalized land information system, we are not worried about anyone taking your land. Because whether you're in Juba or you're in which state, you have access to the land, to that information, because it's accessible online.
A senior member of the National Committee on Land and Physical Infrastructure, John Manuel Ngot, affirms the importance of the national land policy in ensuring equitable land governance and sustainable development.
The land given location, this policy is going to contribute a lot. This policy is going to even because of environment.
Some of the participants affirms that collective efforts between the National Ministry of Lands, Housing and Urban Development, IGAD, and development partners like Sweden government is a significant step.
نحمل دولتنا المسؤولية. ما في حاجة اسمه قالوا مرة ما بيستحق وراجل ما بيستحق.
There must be an awareness to our men in this country that marriage is not a slavery, it is a partnership.
Why? Because we are in two situations. Situation either you can be a land grabber or having a human of $400,000 to buy a land.
The South Sudan HIV and AIDS Commission says the country has made significant progress in reducing AIDS-related deaths and new infections. According to the Commission, AIDS-related deaths have dropped by 58% annually, while new infections declined from 17,000 in 2021 to 7,000 in 2024, a 50% reduction. The Commission strategized to test at least 25% of the population, ensuring that those test positive are immediately enrolled into treatment. As a result, the number of people on antiretroviral therapy has risen from 47,000 in 2021 to 75,000 in 2024, driven by expanded testing and awareness campaigns. Dr. Kawach says their focus remains on prevention, testing, and treatment outreach, especially in rural communities where access to services is still limited. Leila Usman has more on the report.
Living positive stories of strength in South Sudan's fight against HIV/AIDS. As South Sudan joins the rest of the world to mark the World's AIDS Day, the fight against HIV is not just measured in statistics, policies, or medical breakthroughs. It is carried in the personal journeys of the very people living with the virus, the health workers who serve them, and the system struggling to support them. This feature captures the voices behind the numbers, voices of courage, resilience, and hope, which life had looked to them like death sentence at a time when there were no drugs. A diagnosis that changed everything when Evelyn Lachio, a 66-year-old mother of two and the chairperson of the National Empowerment of Positive Women Living United, was diagnosed with HIV in 1993 at the age of 35. Her world seemed to have collapsed. She fainted on spot.
It was terrible. I collapsed. When I was first told I'm HIV positive, I collapsed. I didn't know what to do. For almost 2 weeks, I was thinking of nothing but death, death, death. How I can get my late husband out of the grave after 2 weeks. Now I gained strength. I heard a voice that told me, with or without HIV, my daughter, your life must continue.
At Juba Teaching Hospital, Dr. Yash John Deng says many of his patients share fear of stigma and isolation. He says the major cause of HIV transmission is unprotected sex and also mother-to-child transmission. He explains.
Transmission of HIV from mother to child is the main concern for us. And in Juba Teaching Hospital, we have a unit specifically for that, which is for prevention of mother-to-child transmission of HIV. When mothers get HIV, most of them could not be aware that they have the virus. And through the ANC attendance, then they will be diagnosed positive. And once they are diagnosed positive, they are put on ARVs, which is antiretroviral drugs. Once they are put and the mother takes the drugs, well, the child is protected from getting the HIV.
Facing stigma, the hidden burden that comes with being positive, HIV counselor Angelina Deke-Tarso, who is living with the disease, says that stigma remains one of the biggest barriers to treatment.
In Juba here, it's still very high in the community, even the places of law. It's very high, the stigma. People are dying with stigma, even still coming to take the drug, they're still having the stigma, hiding themselves, covering themselves, hiding the drug,
They don't even swallow the drug in the community, at home, in their room, because of the stigma, the fear. Sometimes others go close themselves inside the latrine, taking the drugs.
To counter this, most of the counselors focus on emotional support, patient education, and community outreach.
You know, it is good to be open in case, especially to your children, to your family. It is good to be open to your place of work. It's good to be open where you are praying. It is good to be open in your community. It is good to be open. You know, when you're open, you find life easier. You just go slowly to the community, you go to the second healer.
Government steps up action as the country marks the World AIDS Day. The head of the South Sudan HIV/AIDS Commission, Dr. Justin Kawach, says new infection has reduced from 17,000 in 2021 to 7,000 in 2024.
So this is a reduction of up to 50% in new infection. Another statistics is how many people are we actually treating those on antiretroviral therapy. So in 2021, we had 47,000 South Sudanese that were taking medications from us. And this number went up due to increased testing and more awareness. And in 2024, we have up to 75,000 people being on treatment.
HIV today is not the death sentence it once was. With free treatment available, many South Sudanese are living long and productive lives. A case in point is 75 years old Martin Abogo Matayo, living with the disease. According to Dr. Yash, a viral load test is highly significant for monitoring HIV because it measures the amount of HIV in the blood, which helps to guide treatment decisions, track a person's response to medication, and determines the risk of transmission. He says HIV is not the end. Get tested, get treatment, and never give up. Leila Osman.
The Committee of the National Constitutional Review Commission assigned to Jonglei State has met with 8 county commissioners and members of faith-based groups to discuss proposed amendments to the permanent constitution. The civic education and public consultation exercise aims to gather views from citizens across the country. John Sogom has the details.
The county commissioners welcomed the nationwide constitutional consultations initiative. They say the process gives citizens the power and the right to decide on key national issues. The commissioners pledged to sensitize communities at the grassroots so they can participate effectively.
Due to accessibility to the people or the ground there, it is just the state authority who knows how we can access these areas. We will not be going anywhere. We just headquarters, that was been mentioned. For you, the commissioner of that areas, what you will do is mobilize the stakeholders, the participants.
Secondly, maybe I will not have much time later. It's an appreciation on this buying document that need to be receivable of our state population. That will also indicate some of the concern notes or concern detail. We talk about the type of the government, the type of the citizenship.
Mobility, by this season, you may find that the union applied, even charter applied, also not easy to be written there. So I don't know actually on how you are going to read, and this one is not a one-man responsibility, it's a collective effort for the entire nation. But if you read there, the same community that are in the same community, they are citing this division.
Faith-based groups also took part in the discussions, reviewing each articles and raising key concerns. They suggested that citizenship should be granted only when applicants meet set criteria. They further proposed a 5-year presidential terms and said that after serving 2 terms, a president should no longer contest for office.
Supposed to contribute to the terms and conditions governing those years. But if I say 5 years, What should the government consider before giving somebody residence after those 5 years? In my own opinion, anybody who wants to acquire citizenship in South Sudan should have a very clean criminal record. Maybe you are a Ugandan and you are participating in corruption with a government official, and then you have stayed for 2 years, you want to be a citizen and you pay money.
The National Constitutional Review Commission is mandated to ensure that the permanent constitution-making process is inclusive and driven by the voices of the people. Sogam John.
The Central Equatorial State Committee of the National Constitution Review Commission on Friday held an engagement session with the state's organized forces as part of the ongoing civic education and public consultations in the constitutional making process. The discussion focused on key consultational issues, including the tenure of the president, equitable allocation of resources, accountability in governance, and the unification of the National Army. Speaking at the closure of the session, Augustine Ernest Aremo, Deputy Head of the NCRC Central Equatorial State Committee, emphasized the importance of civic education and public consultations in shaping a constitution that reflects the aspirations of all citizens. He outlined the goals of the initiative and the expected outcomes from the feedback gathered. Meanwhile, Brigadier Nial Thon Nial, coordinator of Central Equatoria State Community Policing, expressed hope that the process would conclude successfully and achieve its intended objectives.
The meeting with the bishops and all the deacons and archdeacons has been a successful meeting. And they have managed also to express their views on aspects of the Constitution they think will need amendment. And there are areas where they think can be kept as they are. The issues of land, the issues of the terms of offices, whether of the presidency or of the other offices in the state, are all clearly reflected. And they have made their own observations, and I think we have come up with a clear understanding of what areas need to be changed and what needs to be kept as they are.
These consultations can become a positive process of ongoing decisions that the South Sudanese will be able to see themselves and own the constitution and make it really a fruitful, that South Sudan will be a nation peacefully and prosper and reconciled family. And this is what we are very...
Let's go for a short break, and when we come back, we'll look into a story from Juba City Council on the modernization of Juba City. Stay tuned. The administration of Juba City Council says it is working to modernize Juba City. Speaking to SSBC after inspecting Konyo and Customs Market, Mayor Christopher Sarafino Wanisoka calls on vendors to relocate to the designated area for their business activities to avoid traffic congestion.
الأسواق بتاعنا ده احنا بديناه في السوق بتاع كاستوم وبره في السوق بتاع كونيو وده هو بداية الدرب بتاع الشغل بتاعنا، لأنه الشغل احنا شغالين الليلة ده شغل بتاع تنظيم، ما في أي مشكلة أمنية في مدينة أمن بتاع مستتب، لكن بس احنا خشينا عشان نقدر ننظم السوق. انتوا ما شايفين يا هو بتاعي، انتوا شايفين هلا بتاع السوق، يعني شوارع بتاع السوق كله اتقفل، حتى لو في حراك في السوق ما بطريقة عشان نقدر ننقذ أرواح بتاع المواطنين بتاعنا. الفندس مشاكل بتاعهم كتير، طلعوا كله في الشوارع وقفلوا الشوارع. وانا بنقول يا جماعه الشارع ده بتاع الناس كله، وانا دايرين حتى الفندس ده هم مواطنين بتاعنا.
The Inspector General of Police General Said Chaolom expressed his willingness to working in collaboration with the authorities of the Juba City Council to reorganize markets in Juba City, warning vendors against selling their goods along the streets. Speaking during a news conference on Saturday, the police chief said the campaign, which started at Custom and Konyo markets, will continue, warning that anybody resisting the reorganization of the marketplaces will face the law.
واجبنا نحمي أرواح بتاع ناس بتاع مواطنين بتاع ممتلكات بتاعهم. عشان كده قعدنا مع السيتي كانسل وقلنا نحن نقوم بدور بتاع النظام العام بالنسبة للشوارع وبالنسبة للأسواق عشان يسهل المرور بتاعت العربات والمرور بتاعت الناس. عشان زول لو ماشي في محل دار يمشي فيه أحيانا بيحصل زول عيان وفيها إسعاف دارين اللي هيقوم مستشفى بيلقى شارع مليان وزحمة وما بلقى طريقة كله عشان عربية يمشي. فنحن من واجبنا عشان نفك الزحمة ده ونفضي الشوارع وننظم الأسواق بواسطة بتاع الناس بتاع السيتي كانسل. هم اللي بيقوموا بواجباتهم. الناس اللي عندهم تراخيص، الناس اللي عندهم مرخصين له محلات، بيكون لازم المحلات ده يكون محلات معروفة وبحكم القانون وبحكم النظام بتاع السيتي كانسل. إذا كان بقى زول عنده مشى عمل له محل عشوائي وبطريقة عشوائية نحن بنزيل المكان ده. وإذا كان هو داير عشان يكون عنده محل عشان يبيع حاجاته فوقه نحن بيمشي لنا السيتي كانسل. السيتي كانسل حيمشي يوروه المحل الممكن وياخد حاجات بتاعه فوقه. الكلام الماشي ده.
Western Bargazal state authorities emphasized the importance of combating gender-based violence in the communities. Rudolph Andrea Ojeka, who represented the governor at the launch of the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence in the capital, WOW, encourages women and men to take a lead in fighting gender-based violence in their communities. The State Minister of Gender, Child and Social Welfare, Mary Carlino Madut, highlights the significance of the raising awareness to prevent the influence and exploitation of social media in perpetrating gender-based violence. Representing partners in the state, DACFO Aku Raphael affirms their continued support to combat gender-based violence in the state.
البارتنرز بتاعنا هم مشكورين باذلين مجهود كبير جدا وحقيقة gender based violence ده عندنا هنا موجودة ومهمة جدا يحاربوا وما بيتم بين رفايلنا مع ناس لولا ما بيتم كده. حتى الأسر ذاته عنده دور، حتى الأسر ذاته عنده دور. المسألة دي مربوطة بالسلوك الاجتماعي.
16 days of activism campaign in Western Bargazal state raise awareness by educating the public, policymakers, and community leaders about the nature and impact of digital violence and exploitation.
This year we don't want only to be within WOW municipality or within WOW county. We want to reach out to Zoo River County, and also we have to extend to Raja. Already the team of Raja already in Raja. They hold the child, living hope and civil.
Let's move to Lake States, where communities have joined the campaign against gender-based violence under the theme, Protect Women and Girls from Digital Abuse and Exploitation. Mario Suleiman has more in the following report.
The government of Lagos State, in partnership with the General Protection Cluster, launched the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence in Rumbek, which began on 16 November to 10 December 2025. Speaking at the launch, the State Minister of Gender, Child and Social Welfare, Angelina Deng Mario, reiterates her commitment to hold accountable anybody found abusing young girls and women across the state.
So our community need to be aware about the messages we give to protect women and girls. The protection is general. Protection will talk about early and forced marriages, we'll talk about GBV, we'll talk about girl-child education, and health by itself.
The head of Human Rights Division at the United Nations Mission in South Sudan, Rumbek Field Office, Raul Erengi, urged social media users to abide by human rights laws. He called upon the government to prosecute perpetrators found posting unwanted images and videos of girls and women online.
The international human rights framework applies zero tolerance to this digital violence as a form of gender-based violence. Existing laws and regulation are applicable and can have a significant impact when enforced.
The representative of General Protection Cluster emphasized on the government reviving customary and public order law to reduce the high rates of forced and early marriage across the states.
And we do reiterate our commitment as a cluster to continue working with the Ministry of Gender, Social Welfare, so that all gender considerations are integrated into our education system to ensure safe access and safety of our children.
In a separate news development, hundreds of citizens joined Landmark High School to celebrate the forced farewell party to honor over 400 candidates prepared to sit for Senior 4 national examination next Monday. The director of Landmark High School, Elijah Matwenj Jalap, urged the candidates to face the examination without fear.
As young people, all of us cannot fit in his office or our president's office. So I took the initiative with the little I have, with creativity and innovation, to contribute into eradication of illiteracy through education in South Sudan.
Well, I came from East Africa personally. I just came this year. I struggled looking for a school that is like this school, but this
Victoria State Government, in partnership with CIC Insurance Group, planted more than 500 trees at Juba Memorial Secondary School in Gudele. Addressing the event, Director of Forestry at the State Ministry of Agriculture, Kennedy Alfred Jada, commended the CIC Insurance Group for supporting the project. The headmaster of Juba Secondary School, Flora Victor Lege, expresses gratitude to the ministry and partners for launching the project. The managing director of CIC Insurance Group, Julius Ndigiri, reiterates their commitment to supporting the beautification of the school environment.
Globally, the UN General Assembly, where South Sudan is a member, has urged members of the countries to contribute on how to mitigate this climate change phenomena. That's why we in South Sudan, especially in Central Victoria State, through the State Ministry of Agriculture and Forestry, together with a partner, CIC South Sudan Insurance Group, we are today launching tree planting activities in one of the schools, which is Juba Model Secondary School. And I'm sure we are going to continue in future to cover the other schools, and then also to cover government institutions like hospitals, big government institutions, and others.
Today, on behalf of the administration of the school, the staff, students of this school, it's my great honor to welcome you all in our campus and South Sudan CIC Insurance Group in the implementation of planting of trees today. This planting was ranging from fruit trees, shading, and some for beautification of our compound.
So today is more than a tree planting activity. It is a statement of who we are and the future we choose to build. At CIC Insurance, our work is to protect livelihoods through the insurance policies that we give, different services and solutions that we have for communities. But also to remember that as we protect livelihoods, we also need to protect
And in our last story, the Caucus Forum has launched Sports and Cultural Olympics, the annual event that will serve as a platform for showcasing the rich cultural heritage of South Sudan while fostering unity among its diverse communities. The one-week event will have activities with opening ceremony at the Golden Orchid with traditional fashion show, inter-schools volleyball competition at the digital volleyball pitch at Nimro Talata, host pool table at Top Nest, cycling Albert Farm Road to the Juba Stadium, wrestling that will bring together participants from Yerol West, Yerol East, Twitch East, Bor, Awerial, and Terekeka counties at the Juba Stadium. Speaking at the launch, the chairperson of the caucus, Dr. Philip Anyango, called on the participants to demonstrate the spirit of unity during the competition. The representatives of Terekeka wrestling team and of schools both called for cooperation among the participants.
The purpose of this event is to ensure that South Sudanese showcase the diversity, showcase the cultures, showcase the talents in various aspects. We are hosting 8 games this year, 8 active events this year, from wrestling to football, to basketball, volleyball, and other small indoor games. This is an effort to ensure that South Sudanese appreciate the diversity, appreciate the values, appreciate unity and togetherness.
Annaina fi yom kabir asan najasa badon asan naroa gabudu sorabe tana fi dakhil medanina alo yom 19 yom 20 yom 21 ورسالة تعالى الجنوبيين كله كلنا واعد بعدنا كلنا لأنه سرادة ده حاجة مهم بيجيبوا أي زول في أي دولة الفي بداخل الجنوب السودان بيجعلوا ده كارثة بتاعنا في تابلت في جنوب السودان. أنا wrestling ده أو سرادة ده أو بيجيب لنا unity بيجيب لنا يعني كل الناس في جنوب السودان عشان نجا سارق في محل واحد.
My message to the community of South Sudan is to have the spirit of sportsmanship. The sports are organized not to have maybe garages with your colleagues, but to promote peace and unity, because whenever we have this kind of a sport, it promotes peace, and we are going to link up with different people from.
That brings us to the end of our news for tonight. On behalf of the team on duty, I'm Jacqueline Perino, wishing you a nice time.